Welcome to the Warband, a World of Warcraft podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Swaglock, and with me today in the studio, if there was a studio, we have our other host, Chicken.
What? Oh, if there was a studio. I thought you were about to call me a studio. I was like, whoa, since when did I become an inanimate object?
Dude,
Anyways.
Okay, so speaking of inanimate objects, I can't speak today. So I've been playing a lot of like Pokemon Infinite Fusion. I know this is off topic from WoW stuff, but it's like this Pokemon game where you can like infinitely fuse other Pokemon together. And it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's been pretty fun. I've been enjoying it. However, I got down the rabbit trail of like, why does Pokemon keep adding in all these like inanimate objects into the game? Like to me, it felt like lazy design.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading up on it, and apparently it's this whole thing where like in Japan and their beliefs about like inanimate objects like gaining spirits or spirits inhabiting inanimate objects. And now I'm like, oh, it makes sense. And now every time I see it, I'm like, wow, that's so cultural. But it's funny how like a little bit of information can like change the way you perceive something, like good or bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why we had to talk about that on the podcast, but it came to my mind.
Yeah, so what do you think about them adding inanimate objects as playable classes in WoW? The horse class. Oh, wait, that's not even right. It would have to be like the lawnmower class.
Lawnmower. Oh my gosh. Yeah, although listen, we got mechagnomes, right? How far off are mechagnomes from being an inanimate object?
I mean, they still got like a soul, right?
Yeah, they have something. I think they still have their hearts at least, right? Hearts and brains probably.
Yeah, mechagnomes are like the weirdest like race, to be honest. Like they just don't make sense to me. What like it's like half robot, and the transmogs for mechagnomes are awful. Oh my goodness.
I wish they need to let you go to the barber and choose pants or no pants, and probably arms or no arms.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like the one thing. If anyone, we say this quite frequently, if anyone's listening from Blizzard, and if you are, you should reach out to us because, well, that'd be kind of cool to talk to someone from Blizzard, right? You need to change that, like, yesterday.
Please.
Like, come on.
Please. Give us real Mog on the gnomes.
Oh, my goodness. Do you even have a Mechagnome?
I have a Mechagnome Hunter, and, well, it was a Night Elf Hunter, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it a Mechagnome because I don't have a Mechagnome. And I changed it to a Mechagnome, and then immediately stopped playing it.
I was going to say, well, come on, it's a DPS. You didn't play it anyways.
Well, I was leveling it. I was enjoying leveling it. And then as soon as I made it a gnome, the interest just disappeared.
No, stop. Really?
Yeah, dead serious. I think if it wasn't a mecha gnome, maybe if it was a regular gnome, that would have been different. I don't know why. I think the mogs killed it for me. All the pants mogs are just like underwear.
Oh, the mogs are awful, dude. I'm telling you. They're garbage. They're hot garbage.
Dude, that new the January trading post mog, the like steampunk one, I have been rocking that on my monk, but I've been rocking it because it has like those fist weapons that are like literal like big mechanical fists.
Yeah.
And it looks so freaking cool. Like I'm just running around feeling like the Hulk. Like, you know when you're a kid you get those like Hulk gloves and they're just like these huge green gloves. I feel like that. I'm just like running around punching things with them. It feels pretty cool. It's like a Vi from League of Legends, or if you watch the Arcane show.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I've thought this basically since it came out. The trading post stuff is like hit or miss. It's either really cool or it's like, it's kind of lame.
Yeah, I do think one of the issues I'm seeing with the trading post, and I don't know if it's a problem with the trading post or players, but there's a big complaint right now that they're adding too many good items to the trading post for high value and not enough tendies to compensate for that, right?
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the complaint is that they need to start adding in more tendies into the trading post so that people can get more items. And I think the problem is twofold. One, I don't think you should be able to get everything off the trading post, right? I think, it's twofold, right? You shouldn't be able to get everything off the trading post. You should really have to pick and choose what you want. And if you're like genuinely upset that you can't have everything, because there's no way, like I'm sorry, but I'm not going to believe that you're actually using everything off of it. I do think WoW players are notoriously bad at just wanting things just to have it, right? Like not to use it, just so it can exist in their bag or in their inventory or in their appearance menu or something. And the problem is like, then you run into issue 2. And if the ask is for more tendies, really it should be no, we just put less stuff in the trading post to compensate. And so it's like they're either asking for less stuff. I don't know. It's just the whole thing is odd to me. And I really want to like, I don't know, but I'm also the guy. Let me clarify. If you're listening and you feel it, you're like, no. It is annoying to look at the trading post and not be able to get what I want out of it. Listen, you're also like, I'm the guy who I think I have over 5,000 tendies sitting in my bag right now. Yeah, because I literally like, and I dropped a lot of tendies on the steampunk stuff. I just hold on to them. I don't get most things unless I'm like, I'm going to use this right now on a transmog. I don't buy it.
I only get stuff when it's like, oh, it's like kind of neat, or like if I see it and I'm like, oh, I could do something with this. Like I feel like I can make this look cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I did buy a lot of the same stuff that you're talking about, and I'm like down to like 2,000 right now, and I'm like, ooh.
And you and I are the outliers, by the way. You and I are the outliers. Most players are probably spending everything they got.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think mounts are another one, right? Like a lot of people feel like they have to buy every mount. I kind of felt that at the start, but dude, like I don't like. I look at them, I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not going to use it. That's cool.
Oh, you're
but I'm
never
going to
use it.
No,
Nope.
Never.
Nope.
How many mounts do you have that just sit there untouched?
Well, at least over 100, because I know I got that like achievement sometime soon, and I know I only use like the same 5 mounts.
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay, what's crazy to me, and again, if this is you, I want you to comment on Discord. Let us know. Like, defend your point of view, because I'm just talking from the other side. It is intriguing. I'll use that word. It's intriguing to me when I watch somebody farm a mount for like years, and then they get the mount after farming it for years, and then they don't use it. And I'm like, how? Like, yeah. You just spent all that time of your life just to tick that mount number up 1, right? Now, maybe if you're like, oh no, I need this mount because it's the perfect mount for my character to ride around on. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little bit different. Yeah,
and needless to say, like I feel like the super rare mounts that people talk about all the time aren't that great.
Now, granted, I would ride
they're
Invincible.
Not appealing.
I would ride Invincible though. That's a cool one.
Which one is that one?
That's the one from the Lich King. They have to like, it's like a super rare low drop.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, so funny story. You remember Touchpad Warrior, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago? So he actually has 2. He has 2 Invincibles, which is one of the rarest mounts in the game. Like by far one of the rarest mounts in the game. And he got
How do
one.
You get 2?
So back in Warlords of Draenor, there's an item you could get, and I think it either gave you a random mount of any mount or gave you a random item of any item. And he already had an Invincible, whether it's through farming it or through that item already. And he had an Invincible, and the item gave him another one. And so literally he has the mount, and then in his like bank or something, he just has the Reigns of Invincible or whatever just sitting in his bank. That was probably the wildest flex I've ever seen for somebody's inventory.
That is pretty wild.
Yeah, that is insane. That's insane. But to me, the thing is like, I get it. There's, people just play the game differently, right? Like for some people, the fun is like collecting them all, right? Like kind of like Pokemon, right? Like I catch them all, collect them all. So I get it. What somebody else enjoys isn't always gonna be what I enjoy. What I enjoy isn't always what someone else enjoys. I think the line for me is when players start getting really worked up over it, right? That's the line. Like if you want to go farm for Invincible every day and then never ride Invincible, that's fine. Go do it. But if you start like getting angry that you don't have access to a mount, even though you would never actually use said mount, that to me feels odd, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, it's mount farming is kind of a weird idea, to be honest, because it's not like I'm thinking of like other games, like one that comes to mind is Borderlands, right? Yeah. And you're farming like legendary weapons in Borderlands. I'm assuming you know what I'm talking about.
A little bit.
Like you basically just go and kill the boss over and over and over until they drop like the legendary weapon. It's a little different because in Borderlands you can just keep doing it, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like behind like a weekly reset or anything like that. Yeah. But you kill the boss and you get the weapon and it's like, oh great, like I can use this. This increases like my build, like my player power, like so much. But for a mount, it's like, oh yeah, cool. I can ride on it, and people will see it, and they're like, oh, you're, I guess, like, cool. Like you're like the bee's knees, right? I just don't get that. Like,
I do think mounts are the last. I think mounts are the last status thing that exists in the game, and that's why I think they're so touchy, right?
Yeah.
Because prior to transmog, before transmog existed, you saw somebody's achievements on their character, right? Now your gear kind of looked weird because your gear was a weird hodgepodge of stuff. It was actually the coolest. It was the coolest when you would have the whole tier set, right? Like you'd have the whole tier set, so your gear all matched that season. Then you would look really cool because you're like, yeah, that guy's got comprehensive armor. But most of the time, your armor, your weapons, they revealed your achievements, and so you would look at somebody and be like, whoa, is that Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker? And then someone else would be like, did someone say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker? Right? Like you would see their weapons, you would see what they have on them, and be like, yo, that's crazy. The Bulwark of Azeroth. Oh my gosh, that's wild. How did you get that? Well, I mean, you know how you got to farm it. But nowadays, it's not the same, right? Like the last legendary weapon we had was in Season 3 of Dragonflight and Season 4. But we had Farok's weapon, Fearloth, right? Fearloth.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Fearloth.
I just know it as Fire Axe.
Fire Axe, right? And the problem now with legendary weapons is they're not really legendary, right? They're legendary in the sense that they're really good, kind of. They usually nerf the classes that can use them to compensate. But the weapon's good.
Mm-hmm.
However, Blizzard is obligated at this point to give them to everybody, right? Like, if players didn't get Fearlock, they were actually just angry. They were just angry. It wasn't like it wasn't like back in the day, like where you looked at somebody like, "Whoa, dude, you got that? That's amazing! Wow, that's so cool." It's like, "Oh, I still don't have this, and I'm angry about it that I don't have this," because WoW's a different game now than it was back then, right? I think in part the challenge of WoW is a lot harder than it used to be, and so players are always trying to juice out that like last percentage of damage, 2% of damage that they can get. Whereas back in like classic TBC, you have more flexibility in that you didn't have to have everybody playing at like 100%, right? Like meta, and so it's a different game, but. All that to say, I think mounts are the last time or the last thing I think that exists right now that's like a status symbol that you can be like, yo, check out this mount. This mount represents something, and that's why I think they're important because they can represent all sorts of things. Like, hey, I got AOTC, check out my mount, or hey, I got my arena rating high enough. I don't know what it is, what a gladiator mount or whatever it's called.
Yeah, gladiator, I think.
Right, those are cool, right? Oh, we killed Mythic and Sarek. We got that, whatever the mountain is that drops off that, right? Like, those are like achievement things. But then you also have like the Invincibles, where it's like, oh wow, look at how much work they put into farming that. That's such a rare mount. Almost nobody has it. That's cool. So I think mounts are interesting in that regard. I just think it's odd to me when it's the like, oh hey, I have to have this because I just want one more on my mount counter. I'm trying to fill up my mountain bar, right? Collect them all, and I need that one. I don't know. We don't have to rant about that for long. I do think sometimes players' desires to have something don't always benefit the game. In the same way, that right, legendary weapons aren't really rare, right? Like in the same way, it's like, oh, that's a legendary weapon, so expect everybody who can use it will have it.
Yeah, I mean, the axe from last season or last expansion was not that rare.
No, was it hard to get? I mean, yeah, it was still a pain in the butt to get. I mean, not that hard, but it was basically guaranteed if you just tried.
Well, yeah. After how many weeks wasn't it actually a guarantee?
Yeah. I think the odds increased every week or something. Yeah, which will probably be the norm. Will probably be the norm on future runs.
And then even worse, didn't they just like let you have it in season 4? Like, wasn't there one of the things that you could just literally have it?
Like one of the things you get with bullions? Yeah. Maybe? I don't remember. I actually don't remember because I already had it by that point, so I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was the item to upgrade it.
The item to upgrade it was available.
Yeah. Right. I was wrong.
But I think even farming it, I think, was expedited season 4. They made it faster.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't really do Mythic or I didn't do raid in
That makes sense.
in season 4. I mean, who did?
That's true.
Well,
That's true.
Faded raid.
Yeah, man. PTR's up now. Some new stuff going on with PTR. Did you see some of it?
Yeah, I saw the majority of the stuff that's going on with PTR, and you know, I'm just gonna get out of the way. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I don't believe in PTR, and what I mean by that is, you know, I get it for content creators, like cool. Like I get it for some people that, you know, want a different taste in WoW. But personally, I just don't see the point in it. Like, to me, it almost just seems like I'm getting ahead of what's to come, right? And it's not that you are, because you have to go back and do everything over again. Like, it's not like, oh, you know, I can get to eye level. What can you get max now? Like 650 or 636? It's like, oh, I can get to eye level 660, and then that transfers over to the main. Wow. It's like, yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it over. But I don't know. I've never had the desire to do PTR, but I understand why people do.
Yeah, I mean, PTR is it's just the public test realms, right? So
yeah,
the idea of it is just like, hey, I want to help test stuff, and you're not even really leveling up on PTR or getting on a level. Usually everything kind of just scales to you.
Yes,
and that way you're not even, you know, because they don't really want you to feel like you're putting the whole grind in. It's just like, hey, can you test some things, make sure it all works out well. The nice thing with PTR though is it does give us a glimpse into what's coming up soon, and that also kind of lets us speak into things. And we can be like, hey, Blizz, this is not really a great idea. This looks kind of weird or operates weird. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, dude. There's definitely some oddities on the PTR right now, and some things that are really cool. There's some things that are really cool as well. Did you see the new swirly design?
Yeah, I saw the new swirly design, and I think I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I know personally you and I have talked about it as like, hey, like, we think this is gonna happen. You know, there's some, I don't want to say there's some telltale signs of it. But I think it was pretty well known, wasn't it? Like, it was actually like Blizz came forward and said, hey, we're redoing the swirly design. I think so.
Right? I think Blizzard said they were redoing it.
Yeah, so this isn't, I don't think this is new news, but to actually see what it looks like, you know, I have it pulled up here, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot different. It's more what's the word I'm looking for? Visible, I guess. Like that sounds like kind of a garbage way of describing it, but it's literally more visible. And I personally think it looks good. I'm nervous, or I'm interested to see what other people have to say about it, because now is it like almost like taking away from certain things? I don't know. Does it take away from the aesthetic of the dungeon? I mean, to me, that doesn't really matter, right? Like, I'm not worried about like a little swirly that's like, oh, it's making the dungeon look bad. Like, okay, like, it's gonna be there for 2 seconds, right? I don't know. I think it's a great idea. I do, because I think that's one of the biggest things that is struggling with people in WoW. They just can't see it. Like, it's a struggle. Like, you just can't physically see things. Yeah. And
a big problem with swirlies for people listening is swirlies are always a little vague on how wide the damage area is, right? And so there's so many times where you're like, I'm safely out of this, and then it turns out, no, you're not. You're not even close to being out of it, and you're dead.
Oh, no, yeah. And then you're like, okay, perfect. You know, thanks, Blizz. But I do, to be honest, and I think we've talked about this before, and I don't know if we've actually talked about it on the podcast before, but like the line attack in Ansarek, where she pulls the spider webs in, and it's more of like almost like a square line, right? I personally like those better than the swirlies, because I think they're a lot more straightforward. Yeah. And I think we've talked. I think we've talked that like maybe we've thought that like, hey, maybe this is the replacement, you know, long term for swirlies. Right?
I don't think it's the replacement. I think it's just another thing. I think it's an alternative. I should say that, an alternative to swirlies, where it works very similarly, but how you respond to it's just a little different. And so it forces you to think a little bit
so much different.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's like thing will hit on the ground soon, move away from it, right? Like, that's That's really what it's doing, which is what a swirly does. It's just
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, so I don't know. I generally like the design of it, but I can understand. I think people are going to be a little bit upset about. I think people are going to be a little bit upset about it. Now, the question is, does this make WoW easier or not? Like, that's the big question, right? Does this update actually make the game easier? And I think it does. And are people going to be mad about that? I'm sure someone will, but I won't be.
Yeah. I think so. My thoughts are a little bit more mixed, I think, than your thoughts. So in terms of like, does it make it easier to see where the danger zone is? Absolutely, yes. 100%. 100% makes it easier to see the danger zone. No question, no doubt about that. I don't necessarily. I wouldn't say it's ruining the dungeon aesthetically. What I will say though is it doesn't feel like WoW, if that makes sense. It almost looks like they ripped it out of a different game. Like it just came out like Overwatch or like Final Fantasy or something, right? It doesn't really look like it comes out WoW. I think one of the things the swirly does really well is by the nature of the swirly itself. When you look at that, right, the idea of the swirl, it makes you feel like, oh, something is honing in on that space, right? Which is the idea of it, right? Like a swirly represents, oh, stuff's about to crash into this area. I think the new design, whatever we want to call them, the rings, the loops, the death circles, I don't know. Whatever it
Death
is,
circles.
right? Whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily convey that same level of danger that I think a swirly naturally kind of conveys a level of danger. That, I mean, over time we'll probably get used to it, but my thought process is always towards that new player. Does it naturally tell that new player, get out of this? It's dangerous. Don't stand here, right? And I think a swirly does a better job than like a little circle, but a little circle will be more. The circle will be more visible, which I think will be good. I just hope they maybe rework the design of it a little bit. And part of me was hoping they just put circles around the swirlies, right? Like that would just be the fix. Like here's the edge of the swirly. But I also know that kind of starts to look a little similar to the soak mechanic, which is kind of a circle with like a little bit of a swirl inside of it. So it's possible they were running into trouble differentiating the two. And so they just felt like it was better to just go the complete opposite direction in order to make sure that they were distinctly different. Whatever the case may be, I do think it's an improvement. I just think aesthetically there needs to be some work done to, one, still make it not feel so... It does feel very abrupt. From what we've seen, it feels very abrupt visually from everything else. Goodness. So maybe to soften it, a little bit, and somehow design it so it doesn't just feel like a circle, right? Like right now it just feels like a ring. How do you make it feel a little bit more dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a good point that honestly I didn't even think about, is like the new person, because like I 100% know that is going to be damaged, but now that I'm looking at the picture of it again, if I was new, I might 100% think that is like a buff, because it kind of looks like a buff.
Yeah, it almost looks good, right? Like it almost looks like, oh, hey, this is a good thing.
Yeah. Like it's and I think of the stupid well, I guess it kind of is council fight from that oh my goodness, the dungeon from BFA with the pirates in it that was in it's gonna bother me. You know which one I'm talking about, but they're like sending out the beer that's like either a buff or it's like a debuff, right?
Yeah.
And I always struggle with that dungeon of knowing which was which, and I'm like, I have no idea if this is a buff or it's a debuff at the beginning, but then after a while, obviously you get used to it. Yeah. But if I was a new player, I'd have no idea. I'd be like, oh, this looks like a buff. I'm gonna stand in it.
Yeah, and it's possible it's just it happened to just be the screenshot that we saw because of the coloration or whatnot. But for real, dude, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, that really looks like I should stand in it. And by standing in it, I will get powered up, right? Like I will get strong. It's just the coloration, the way that it fades from like a teal to a darker blue, with the inside being like kind of soft and glowy. It looks good for you. And so that's my worries, right? Like a swirly naturally looks bad. No matter what color you put in, a swirly's gonna look bad. Can they visually make it feel dangerous? Because it doesn't feel dangerous. Now I know it's supposed to be warning that danger is coming, but right now it feels like, oh, stand here for power up.
Yeah.
But I think they're in the right direction, by the way.
Feels that way.
By the way, I just want to clarify. I think they're in the right direction. I just don't think they're there yet. And I'm afraid that this is just where they're going to stop and call it a day. But as a player, right, like as someone who's been playing for a long time, if this is what they do, if they change this to if this is it, if this is where they leave it, it will help me. Me personally, Swaglock, it will help me. I don't think it will help create a better new player experience. That's what I'm arguing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I would have never thought about it that way. Like 100%, I would have never thought about it that way. And I do scroll down a little bit on this Wowhead article. If you're curious on where we're getting this information, it was a Wowhead article. It looks like it was from a Dorky stream.
Yeah, and
they have screenshots from the Undermined, which is from Undermined, but it looks like it's the new raid actually. And you can see ones that are red, and those look like clearly more like, oh, that's damage that you probably want to avoid. Well, maybe I shouldn't say clearly more, but I mean, the coloring is more, hey, red is damage. You don't want, you don't want to take damage, right?
Yep.
Personally, that's what I would assume. But yeah, I mean, you brought up some good points that I never even thought about. So that's I don't know. Let us know what you think if you're in the Discord. What you think of the new swirly design? Definitely.
Dude, did you see the new delves that they're adding in?
I just looked at them a little bit. They look pretty cool. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of delves, obviously, which you probably already knew that. I'm not a huge fan of how they did them. Like, I don't like the storyline with the delves. Like, now it's that like weird, like, it's like that weird creature that's you can go and fight, and then you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. They're gonna have that every season, though, something like that. But my curiosity was, did you see the the really goblin-y themed one? I can't remember what it was called. Would you like? Because I'm just thinking like this gives me a good picture into the aesthetic of that. I love the aesthetic of this upcoming patch. It looks so good.
Yeah, dude. I think. And I've said this before. I just like that like goblin-y kind of like mecha gnome like vibe, right? And well, even gnome. I mean, I main a gnome, obviously. Yeah. Well, if you're not aware, I do main a gnome. If you're listening, but it's called Side Street Slushy, maybe.
Okay. Oh, Side Street Sloosh.
Oh, sloosh. Yeah, perfect English, right? Perfect grammar. Anyways, it looks pretty good. Like, it has that, like, kind of, like, Mechanomi vibe, or Mechagon even vibe. But, I don't know. We're only going to do it, like, once. Like, come on.
But I think the reason why I like it, though, is because I haven't taken too much of a look into the whole Undermined zone and, like, what things look like. And so I really love it. It's got that like old city factory kind of mechanical grungy feel to it. The glowing green ooze going around. Like, I think it'll be a really nice change of pace from everything that we've been encountering in WoW lately. To have occasionally these like kind of fun, a little bit sillier zones. I really think just is healthy for WoW to have. It's always been kind of a part of WoW, and I think it's good to see, especially after like Shadowlands into Dragonflight into the War Within, to have a zone that's just kind of like, oh, this one's just like a little goofy. It's a little goofy. It's like when you're questing back in Dragonflight and you get the Murloc quest line where you like go to the Murloc world and it's like goofy and it's fun and you're like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. I think the goblins kind of offer a little bit of that. It's just fun. It almost feels like a little vacation away from the craziness.
Yeah.
Which will be good.
No. I don't think I've ever said this on the podcast, but I feel like you would agree with me. I feel like, and looking at some of the models and the dungeons are okay. The dungeons might be the part that breaks this season, but if the dungeons are good, I feel like this season has the potential to be like one of the best seasons I've ever seen in WoW.
Yeah, it does
Like-
look good. The raid,
Like this-
bro, is
Oh, dude, the
so
raid
good.
looks really good.
And I've heard great things about the fights, by the way. I've heard really good things about the raid fights.
Yeah. So I personally, I'm pretty hyped for it. I like I said, I feel like it has the potential to be one of the best seasons I've ever had. I mean, I haven't been around too long, so I'm sure a lot of people are like roasting me in the comments, like, "Oh, you weren't around for Mr. Pandaria, the raid that we had for 10 years."
Oh, are you talking about Siege of Orgrimmar?
Yeah, like you weren't around for Prime Siege, like that was the greatest raid ever.
Yeah, dude, Siege went on for like a year and a half, bro. That was like a year and a half long season. You don't want Siege.
I know, but I feel like when it first came out, people were like, "Oh, this is like
Siege of Orgrimmar was pretty cool.
This is like the best raid experience anyone's ever had when it first came out."
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting too, because a lot of times when people think best seasons, they're thinking on like, what was my favorite season in terms of like doing content? What was the best raid? What was the best dungeon pull? What was the best experience in dungeon? When was my class the best, right? And what we're saying right now is that...
Or those memories, right?
Yeah, those memories. What we're saying right now is that Season 2 of The War Within, just aesthetically, the vibes feel so good. And so if everything else matches up to the vibes, then it will be one of the best seasons ever. Will it all?
I think...
Probably not. And that's why I think, Chicken, you even said you don't know about the dungeons, right? Because the dungeons themselves look fine, but after this season, it's just like, unless Blizzard makes a 180 on their dungeon philosophy, it's just going to be questionable. Did you see the YouTube video I ended up putting out this week?
Yeah, it was really good. I didn't even realize that you put one out until I think I saw you like personally said something in like a one of like the mod channels on Discord, and I was like, "Oh, you put out a YouTube video. I gotta watch it." And then I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, that was really good."
Because I kind of followed up. I kind of followed up on our conversation with the podcast last week, and just I thought about it more. Like, dude, I 100% think if Blizzard can, because even just doing dungeons today, if Blizzard can find a way to better on-ramp players into Mythic Plus, which is hard. That's the harder ask. But the easier ask is like, dude, if they can make tanking and healing more appealing and more fun, like, dungeons are back. Dungeons are back. I think the biggest thing, and I want to know from people listening, I think the biggest thing hurting dungeons right now is that DPS take 2 hours to find a key, right? Like, it takes so long to get into a dungeon that people just aren't going to do it. They're just not going to play. And so I think if Season 2 can come along, and they got to make some changes, because it doesn't look like it's going to be that way right now. It currently does not look like it's going to release like this. But if Blizzard can release it in this state where players want to play tanks and healers, I think you're going to see an amazing season.
Yeah, no, it's obviously a problem, right? And how they address it, I think, is going to be, the key to the next season, and I don't want to say the survival of next season, but what next season looks like, and if we call it really good. I think the pieces of the puzzle are there, right? Good aesthetic, good vibe for the actual content, but if the player experience is awful, then it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if your raid looks good. It doesn't matter if your dungeons are great. If the experience is awful, it doesn't matter, right?
The rest falls apart.
I mean, I see it in dungeons all the time right now. It needs to change. I mean, we'll see, right? Personally, I don't think it's going to change. If you want my honest opinion, I don't think they'll change. I will be dead honest. I don't think it will.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous. I don't think we're going to see much of a difference this next season with dungeons.
No, I don't think they have the tools to change it. Like, I just don't think they're ready to change it. I mean, they got to do some big changes.
Dude, I don't think they want to. I think there's a philosophy idea. I think there's a philosophy idea that Blizzard is like, I think they're doubling down on this idea that, like, specifically like how tanks operate. I think that's the big one. Yeah. Right? And they're doubling down on it, that tanks shouldn't be quite so tanky and need to be more reliant on healers. And the more they double down on that, the less tanks are going to play.
Oh, yeah.
And the less tanks play, the less DPS are going to get into dungeons. And the less DPS get into dungeons, the less people are going to want to do dungeons.
Yeah. And even on top of that, I mean, people aren't going to play because the problem is that even relies on your healers then, because then your healers have to do more, and then healers aren't going to want to play, and then it's like a never-ending cycle, dude. It's awful.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Hot take right now. Maybe it's not that hot. I think it's a hot take.
The hottest take.
I actually think the dungeon pool this season is good. I actually think it's a very good dungeon pool. The dungeons feel fine.
I think it's good too.
Grim Batol is probably my only complaint. And it's not even horrendous, right?
Batol's not even that bad, man.
Not even horrendous. That's probably my biggest complaint. Overall, the dungeons this season are great. Affixes feel phenomenal. I love the affixes.
Yeah.
These are the best affixes I've ever seen in World of Warcraft, not counting seasonal affixes. That one where we got basically infinite haste from killing dreadlords will always be peak. However,
yeah, that one was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. But also, like, we're not really that far off right now, right? Like, Zaltath pops up, we kill her, we get some bonuses, right? The affixes feel great. People would probably complain that the jump from 11 to 12 is a little wonky, but it looks like they're even softening that up going into next season, so that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, but like, just real quick to touch on that, that's not even like a gatekeeper problem though. That it's not like you're getting gatekeeped from. Oh, I can't run a 12 because you affix. It's like, okay, like, get good then. Sorry.
Right? Yeah. I mean, but also too, like, at that point, what does a 12 offer you? I mean, maybe a couple more crests, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not even like any rewards being held from you at that point. If you're pushing 12 and up. You're pushing 12 and up because you want to prove how good you are at the game, right? Like, you're just trying to prove something.
Yeah, you're not getting anything.
That's challenge content right there. So even then, right? Like, so I would say affixes are probably the best I've ever seen them in World of Warcraft right now.
Yeah. Oh, I'd 100% agree with that. Even though they seem simple, they're perfect. Like, simple is, in this mindset, simple is better. Yeah. Like, it 100% is.
Yes. I really don't think it has anything to do with the design of the dungeons right now. I do think maybe, hear me out, if I'm being picky, there is too much stuff happening in trash pools. I will say that. I think there's too much happening in trash pools. In most of them. When you start pushing, pushing 10s and up.
Yeah, Stone Vault is awful. Yeah.
When you start pushing 10s and up, just the amount of stuff, right? Because most of the time you're pulling maybe 2 packs max. 2 packs max. Because once you go past that, right, just too many free casts going off, too many things happening. So, maybe tone back a little bit how much stuff's going on, but I think that probably affects hierarchies more than it affects what you and I do. So I don't know how much
I think it affects every key, dude.
Yeah, but I think once they start becoming one shots, that's where.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right, yeah. Right. That definitely changes. But for a lot of what we do, it's not the end of the world. Honestly, if they can balance out how much of each role is available, that's where you win. People want to do them. People, like the comments I was seeing on that video. People want to do M+ dungeons. Well, not everybody. Some of them were just grouches. But for the most part, people want to do M+ dungeons. They just aren't getting into groups. And they're not getting invited. And they're complaining. And they're going, well, I'm not getting invited to the group because my eye level's only 618. And they want 636. But that doesn't even make sense because it's dungeon. Right? Like, but yeah, of course, if a tank's queuing up and you have 30 DPS queuing, we talked about this last week, so I'm not going to rant on it again, but if Blizzard can balance that out, dude, they save dungeons. And the dungeon pool looks, hopefully okay next season. There's some I really like and some I'm worried about.
Let's be honest. We know which one you're worried about.
Dude, that candle one, bro. It's the candles. I can't remember the name.
Oh, that one looks rough too.
Darkflame Cleft, is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's be honest. No one wants Theater of Pain. Out of all the dungeons they could have chose from Shadowlands, they chose Theater of Pain.
You know what, though? I still don't know why they didn't do Tazavesh Streets. That to me would have felt like
dude,
more on board with everything else.
Dude, that is a goated dungeon, in my opinion. That would have been a great
It
experience.
also has the whole cartel thing going on, right? They're always talking about cartels.
Yeah.
It's got that city street feel that like Undermine has going on right now. It's kind of got some mechanical stuff going on. To me, I'm like, dude, Tazvesh Streets would have been like right on brand, for this season.
A big miss on Blizzard's part. I think Theater of Pain is going to be the worst dungeon next season.
Dude, watch Theater of Pain end up being the like easiest one.
It very well might be the easiest one. That doesn't mean it's the worst one. I mean, but you're also talking to the person that doesn't really think Grim Patrol's that bad. Yeah,
we're also talking about like boss count too. Boss count, I think plays a big role in the thing, right? And so Theater of Pain is what is that, five bosses, and you're running down like long hallways each boss, right? I don't maybe the last boss I don't know if there's like any trash between those two bosses, but everything else, right? You have tons of trash, like lots of trash to clear.
Really? Is there? I didn't think there was that much trash in that dungeon. Actually,
it's not. I mean, it's not horrendous, but you're going down like each one. Like I hate going through the undead. I guess it's all undead. The one that has the lich. The one that's the lich is the final boss, and you're trying to dodge the swirlies and like aggro all the ghosts. The one thing I did do a lot, I used to take control undead into that dungeon as a tank, and I would control undead. There's like one of the mobs was like stronger than the other and offered like a buff, so I would control undead it for most of the dungeon. But the problem was, here's the problem: if you wiped, the mob would just go back to place, and then you have to like go out of your way to go grab it again, so you get the percent.
Oh dang.
Yeah, so it was kind of like this, like, okay, you just take it for a little bit, get the benefit, and then make sure to kill it with something else. Otherwise, you're gonna be short.
Dang, that's kind of rough.
It was fun. It was a fun dungeon.
That's kind of cool though, because I'm always looking for little things like that just make WoW like kind of fun.
Yeah,
like,
when you find those little oddities or ways that your class can do something no one else can do, that's where it gets really cool.
Yeah, dude. I like one of the things I loved. The only thing I loved about that affix, the stupid oh my goodness, the stupid one where there's like almost genie in a bottle things like spawned, and then they just started free casting like debuffs on you.
Oh yeah, it's like, as a tank you could control undead, or as a DK you could control undead.
Yeah, dude. I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Because then they're casting on everybody else. The problem was your cast took like a second. And so by the time you got your cast off, someone else had like insta slept it or something, and you're like, dang it.
Yep. That was the worst. And then even on top of that, as like Unholy, it's like not even worth using, because then it takes your main minion away, and then you have to like almost like dismiss it when you want to do like your actual like dark transformation and stuff. Yep. And I was like, that's awful. Like they should have edited this ability for DKs or for Unholy, because it's like you gotta basically just like expel some damage to be able to control it, while Blood and Frost can just take control of it. I'm like, what can you do? Right?
What can you do? That's just the way it works. What else have we seen on the PTR so far? We talked about some dungeons. We talked about delves. There is a new Warband loading screen. I think there's a couple new ones, right? And
which is kind of... Go ahead. No, I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No. So there's a couple new ones, and I believe you also now have the option to set up multiple warbands. I don't know how many multiple. I don't know how many multiple is.
Dude.
It might just be 2. It might be more than 2. But that way, as you click through, it's not like, oh hey, here's your warband of 4, and then every other character is just by himself.
Yeah, dude. That's...
Do you even have 4 characters?
Not
like when
80.
you log in, is your warband screen even full?
Yeah, dude. Oh my goodness, bro. I have one of each spec almost.
At max level?
No, not at max level, but I've one of each spec. The only class that I don't have is Shaman, actually.
Oh, really? Wait, you don't have like any Shaman?
Nope, I have no Shaman. Like I said, dude, I have one of each class. I just don't have a Shaman. And I don't have I have a Demon Hunter, but it's on a different server, so I don't know if I really count that. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think it's just Shaman then. I don't have any Shaman.
Interesting. Dude,
I don't know
you
why.
should become an enhancement shaman.
Dude, bro, you think I'm gonna level a character from 1 to 80?
Yeah, dude, don't you have like, what is it, like 25% faster XP?
Dude, 1 to 80 would take like hours, bro. What do you think I got? You think I got that kind of time?
Yeah, dude, it's not that crazy. Hours, easy peasy.
Dude.
Bro, you have time to level one character.
Oh, wait. I don't have a warlock either, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, never mind.
I guess can't do it.
Can't do it. It's all over. Yeah, 2 characters is too much. 2 characters is too much. If it was just 1 character. But did you... I don't know what the different loading screens are. I didn't really look at them. I just heard that we have new ones.
Oh, I think they look kind of cool. Yeah.
What are they?
It's not like... like, the loading screen now is kind of like... I don't want to say it's drab and, like, not that great, but it's kind of like... it's like, like, it's... You know, this is more like almost like a more of like a, what do you want to call it, like an open, like sunny, like foresty vibe instead of like kind of like dark and like around a campfire.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I like that.
So it looks, actually I'm looking at it right now, it looks like it's based in the Onaran Plains, which that's pretty cool. Like the one thing that the Onaran Plains had for was it was kind of aesthetically pleasing.
It was, dude. That's what they used on my YouTube stuff a lot. I think I used it in like a lot of things. Is that there's like one screenshot of Onaran Plains that was just like absolutely gorgeous. And so I would like, I think at the end of all my YouTube videos, I think it's still there. Like it's like my credit, like not my credit, but like where it pops up with other video suggestions and stuff. Like Onaran Plains is a gorgeous zone. Honestly, I think just about all the zones in Dragonflight were beautiful. All the zones in Dragonflight were beautiful. Yeah. I don't know if the underground one was, yeah,
it was okay.
Right. I don't think that the War Within quite has the beauty that Dragonflight had in terms of zones. You have the Isle of Dorn, I think it is what it's called, Kazalgar, the main island. And that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't really feel like, it doesn't feel the most unique or exciting, right? You go down into the Ringing Deeps. Really. Ringing Deeps are cool, but they do get old after a while, right? Like it's a cave. I mean, it feels like a cave. I would say though, Hallowfall is beautiful.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
In their defense, Hallowfall might be the most beautiful zone ever created in World of Warcraft. Grizzly Hills might be better, but I'm biased. I don't even know if you could point out where Grizzly Hills is on a map. One day I'll take you there. I'll take you there, and we can just sit and watch the bears roam around, listen to the beautiful music in the background. It's in Northrend.
Oh. Yeah, I've never been there.
Okay, but Grizzly Hills, I don't know. I want to know if you're listening. We keep asking our listeners to leave comments as if this is Twitch, but what are your favorite zones? I want to know. I want to know what your favorite zones are. But anyways,
we need to. Yeah, I need to this week when I listen to this, because if you're not aware, I do listen back to the podcast because I think if you want people to enjoy your content, you should enjoy it. And I'm like, it's like the ADD in me that's like, oh, I like watching or listening to things that I know what's going to happen. That way I can be like ready for it. Right. Yeah. So I do listen back to the podcast. Whenever I do that, I'm going to like make a note and I'm just gonna be like, did anyone actually say anything in the Discord or did they not?
That's true.
And when people don't, I will at everyone in the Discord and ask them.
Dude, they should hear me out, bruh. Hear me out. They should make a Warband. They should make a Warband like background for every zone. I feel like it can't be that crazy. I feel like it can't be that crazy hard just to be like, hey, look, it doesn't even like just we go to the zone, we get the little background. I don't know how the Warband screens are made, but it would be cool if it was easy enough to just go make them in every zone.
I think that's low key. I think you kind of just like trip something in my mind that you should just be able to create your own.
Dude, that would be sick. Be able to like make your own Warband screen.
Yeah. And like imagine, dude, like you can just take one from like the top of the like the statue or like the top of like the dragon things in Veldraken.
And then you just have to like, it just has like a little editor where you have to pick where the characters kind of position themselves.
Yeah.
And then that's it, right?
Blizzard,
then that's it.
dude, if you're listening, Blizzard, add that. But anyways, to your original point of being able to add more, like being able to add more warbands, so it's not just like the one warband, right? That's actually confirmed.
I think so. I think you can have multiple. Okay. I think I saw that on Twitter. So I could be, or X. I could be right. I could be wrong. But I believe I did see that you could have like at least two warbands.
Bro, if, like I said, dude, Blizzard, you're painting the picture, man. It's looking beautiful. Yeah. But you just got to do the right thing with it, man. You got to fix the picture.
Yeah, make dungeons good, and this will be one of the best seasons in the history of World of Warcraft.
Easily.
Just make dungeons good. That's all we're asking for. Make dungeons good again. Just kidding. Well, they were pretty good. Good.
The experience of dungeons good.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, right? The problem is the dungeons themselves this season are good. It's just nobody.
They're good.
Nobody can get into them. Nobody can get into them.
The experience is not there, right?
Yeah.
Or when you do get in them, people just don't know what they're doing because it's like they just don't have the experience in the dungeons because they're already at like hero track gear and they're like, oh, I need to run a 10 right away.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of cool things, by the way, sorry, not to move us on to the next topic, but speaking of cool things for next season, did you see the playthroughs with the car, with the drive,
dude,
the RIV?
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh man, it looks awesome. I saw some people complaining. Again, I love when people complain because it sparks conversation. But like them complaining and be like, "Why are you making us use ground mounts again? We already have flying. Just let us fly." And I'm like, guys, this is so cool. Like, these cars are so freaking cool. Calm down. It's not even that big of a zone. If you look at the size of Undermine, it's actually really small.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty small.
It's pretty small. But again, I think forcing us to be back on the ground is okay, right? Like, same thing like Siren Isle. Even though there's not a whole lot to do on the Siren Isles, to be honest, they're small, but their size never bothers me because I'm forced to use ground mounts. And so it actually feels really appropriate. Like, it feels really appropriate to be using ground mounts to go everywhere on the Siren Isles. And that's what I'm looking forward to with Undermine is it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to, like, fit the way that you move around. And I'm hoping that being smaller, this is my hope. My hope is that being smaller, that the space is packed with more stuff. Because that's what I feel like. Sometimes I feel like huge zones are just really empty, if that makes sense. Like, they're huge, and there's kind of things there, but, like, it doesn't really feel like everything has value all the time. And one of the things I hope is with Undermine is that because it's supposed to be like this like city hub, that like we can enter in most of the buildings. I should go on the PTR and test it out. I really should. I haven't. But that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we see some of that.
No, I agree. Yeah, dude, you should get on the PTR for one of us, dude. You know I ain't gonna do
it. No. Well, the problem is I have like trauma, PTSD from the last time I went on the PTR because I was so convinced. I was gonna make guides for every single dungeon. I recorded all the content. I just never edited all of it. It was just a lot. It was a lot, and life was busy. So now every time I think about PTR, I feel like a failure after the last time, and so I'm too afraid to go back in.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So with the drive mechanic, do you think they'll bring it to older mounts, kind of like how they brought dragon riding to virtually every mount in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, imagine the motorcycle mount that you can now drive with, right? The one where you can co-op ride co-op ride. You know. So
here's the thing. Right? Here's the thing right now. The zone that it exists in is so specifically designed for dragon ride or for drive for the cars that I don't even know if they can actually work outside of there, right? Like in terms of like if it would be a good experience or if it would just be pain trying to use them. With that said, there are a couple things that we do know. The drive car is like a spell ability that you use. It's not an actual mount that you have in your inventory.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you can't even use the car as a normal mount outside of Undermine, which I think will have to change because I think once it's done, I think people are going to want to keep their cars. They're going to keep using them. I do think it is a huge system for Blizzard to develop just for one zone in the middle of an
Oh
expansion.
yeah. Oh my goodness.
So there
Yeah,
has to be some future plan for it. Again, I don't know. Supposedly, when Blizzard made Dragon Riding, they didn't have plans for sky riding, right? In their mind, it was like, okay, Dragon Riding, it'll be a Dragonflight thing, and then we'll move on. And then people loved it. And so, really, the question is, will people love it? And if people love it, if people are like hyped, just overly hyped for it, then I think we'll have to. Blizzard will have to bring it back. And I imagine
Yeah.
Blizzard probably hopes for that. I think their hope is that it's such a good system that they have to find a way to make it work for other mounts. But also, in some ways, I don't know, right, dude? Like, if I'm riding my horse, my ghost horse, do I really want to be trying to like Tokyo drift my ghost horse across a field? Like that might
Yeah,
feel.
well,
I don't know, right? I don't know.
Well, see, that's where it's like almost like it would have to be like very specific to like mechanical mounts only,
Yeah.
right? Like you wouldn't be able to use like you said, your horse that can just all of a sudden like drift all over the place. I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe they would. I don't know.
Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. What if Drive never becomes available outside of Undermine as like a mount mechanic, but people love it so much that they end up just adding in Mario Kart style maps that use the Drive mechanic. And so it becomes its own separate game mode. It becomes its own separate game mode in WoW.
That would kind of be cool, actually. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
That might be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. That'd be pretty fun. Speaking of game modes being added in, right, dude? Where we dropping?
Oh my gosh, this guy.
Yeah, man, Plunderstorm. Plunderstorm right around the corner. You ready?
Yeah, as long as they change a couple things, I think I'll be ready.
What are you hoping? What are you hoping you see change?
I really like Plunderstorm.
Yeah, me too.
So one of the big things that I hope they change outside of obviously people just queuing and then like dying, I hope that they change some of the like randomness of it. I think there was like a lot of just like obvious places that people dropped because it just gave the best experience and the best loot. And I was like, I feel like they just got to make it a little more random, you know, like how Fortnite was when it first came out. Like, you have no idea where these chests are going to spawn, and you kind of need a chest because that's where your best loot is. It's almost like a luck of the draw outside of, hey, everyone's landing at these 3 spots because that's where the best experience is.
Yep. Now, granted, that does help kind of build in those natural, right, like tilted towers type locations.
Oh, yeah.
You get lots of early combat, but early combat for Plunderstorm is a little awkward. So hopefully,
early combat it was very awkward.
Dude, what if they add Plunderstorm back in and you boot up and like you just spawn in and there's guns this time? Like you're just running around.
Oh my gosh!
I'm surprised it didn't. I'm surprised they didn't. I bet you they tried to go that route at first because obviously there's gun models in WoW, right? Like for hunters.
Oh yeah, there's tons.
Hunters have like now they're a little awkward looking, but they exist, right? So I wonder if that was like their first idea, and then as they were working on it, they're like, "Nah, we're just gonna do special powers and stuff."
Yeah, I mean, I like the special powers. I think they're kind of cool.
I think one of them is making its way into a talent tree somewhere. I don't know which one.
Oh, really?
I don't know which talent tree, but I think one maybe it's going into like a monk class tree or something. I don't know.
Ooh, that's kind of neat. Actually,
I'd have to look more into it. I just feel like I heard that through the grapevine, so I don't know if it's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of neat if it is true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And then you mentioned you mentioned in our show notes that there's Twitch drops happening. Is that part of Plunderstorm or is that different?
I think it's different from Plunderstorm. There's at least one Twitch drop that is happening. I think it's I think it's actually with the drop. Or with the start of Plunderstorm.
Okay.
And I definitely had it open, and now I do not. So I'm gonna try to find it again, but I don't think it's anything crazy. Yeah, it's gonna drop when Plunderstorm drops, which Plunderstorm is dropping this Tuesday, the 14th. It's just like a back bling that looks kind of like piratey. It's like a target, so it's kind of cool. It doesn't even look like... Oh, no, you have to watch 4 hours of World of Warcraft content between January 14th and February 4th.
That's not bad at all.
To get this
on
like
Twitch?
back transmog. Yeah, on Twitch. Yeah.
Perfect. You know what? This is a good time for me to plug I just launched today, as of recording. I just launched my 5-year subiversary on Twitch. So it's been 5 years, dude. 5 years I've been making content. January 2020 was when I posted my first ever YouTube video. Now I have to admit it was Fortnite content. I've since shifted to WoW content. But you know, like if you're looking for somewhere to get that mount, that Twitch drop, I would suggest my channel on Twitch. There's a link in the description here.
Yeah,
shameless plug.
Quality content.
Of course. And why don't we get into some of our listener questions for today as well?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, Perfect. Of course. Yeah.
So we I feel like we've already answered this in the course of today's episode. By chance, it just worked out that way. But Rasta Goat asked, have you guys played on the PTR yet? And if so, what are your first impressions of the new tier set bonuses? So, if I'm being honest, we have not. We've talked about it a few times. We have not played on PTR yet, but I think both of us have actually been very aware of stuff from the PTR.
Yes.
Just trying to stay up to date with information and news. And I know we talked a little bit, I think maybe last week, about tier set bonuses. Is that correct? Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
We did not. They were in the show notes, but I don't think we ever touched on them.
I think we did a little bit.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I feel like I've talked about it a lot. So
I don't think
it was on Twitch.
Oh, maybe it was. We definitely had a conversation outside of the podcast. It wasn't like a huge conversation. It was kind of just like a hint of, hey, you know, especially for DKs at least, it looks like, you know, there's going to be a shift in hero talents that, you know, it looks like some of the specs might be using the other hero talents, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the notion that I think we've talked about a long time ago. Oh, I think it was a while ago.
Okay.
On one of the first episodes that we talked about of, hey, you know, is that going to be the notion of, instead of like tuning classes, are we going to see like hero talent changes or tier set bonuses that affect the hero talent changes differently, and then thus making one stronger than last season? And for DKs, it kind of looks that way. So I don't know. We'll see.
We will have to see. I think part of the question people are asking, right, is what are our impressions of the tier set bonuses? Because I think some people are concerned with the way that the bonuses are set up. I don't have a problem with it. So if you're not aware, the 2-set bonus is basically the same for 4 different types of roles, right? So all the tanks have the same 2-set bonus. All the ranged DPS have same 2-set. All the melee DPS same 2-set. All the healers same 2-set. And then your 4-set kind of changes that up a little bit. Now, when we say they're the same, the benefit or bonus you get from them is still related to your own abilities. So, like for tanks, for example, I have a chance for Blood Decay to proc Icebound Fortitude. Vengeance Demon Hunter has a chance to proc Meta, right? So it kind of changes tank to tank what that is, and then it plays off that more. It makes it more unique in the 4-set. My thing is, like, I don't care. I don't mind that the 2-set bonuses are kind of copy pastes of each other, because the 4-set is where the fun really begins, right? Like the 2-set is just setting up for your 4-set, and so long as it sets up well, is good. And I'm saying that as like somebody who, like, I don't really care for my 2-set bonus. I think Icebound Fort. I would have much preferred Dancing Rune Weapon next season. Like instead of procking Icebound, and I get people are like, oh no, Icebound is a good defensive. That's why I'm like, I know, but
random procs of defensives aren't like ideal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It'll be nice to get random procs of defensives. I just would have preferred Dancing Rune Weapon. Now, I will note it doesn't trigger your cooldown on that defensive. So like, you get a free Icebound Fortitude doesn't mean it just used your ice. That'd be horrible if it just like used your Icebound Fortitude for you.
Yeah. Oh no.
Right. But I think the DPS ones are really cool. I think the ranged ones I like a little bit more, or maybe it's the melee ones. I haven't looked at them in a minute. It's been a couple weeks since I looked at those. But I have no problem with the tier set bonuses, and I think we're going to progressively see them get better. I think next seasons are going to be really, really, really cool, right? Or season 3, I should say. Yeah. Blizzard kind of said that they wanted to slowly ramp them this expansion rather than like trying to keep them all about the same. Ramp them up.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, and I've heard other people say that the tank ones are kind of like a letdown. So maybe we'll see a change in those before
Dude,
the season actually launches.
Demon Hunters get meta, just like randomly get meta. And I
Yeah,
would
but,
not
like,
be surprised if that makes them meta next season.
Yeah, but I mean, meta isn't that different from Icebound.
Dude, meta's busted good. It gives you more attack power too. We have a question coming in from Ren. I had the chance to get to run some M0 with Ren. I think today we even ran M Plus on stream. And so his question, he asked a question. It's a bit of a long one, so I'm just going to summarize. But essentially, he said that as we're talking about tanks and healers not wanting to play M Plus, what if we just made a special queue just for tanks and healers to do content together? Maybe content that's specifically designed for them only, and that gives them time to like learn their mechanics and learn how to do things before being thrown into a group. And so my argument for that, I think it misses the mark a bit, and I'll explain why it misses the mark and how understanding that can actually help you improve in dungeons. Is that if you take your tanks and healers and put them into their own content, which first of all Blizzard would have to make that's a whole thing that Blizzard would have to make. Now you have even more of a healer and tank shortage for M plus content or just any content. And so the question ultimately is like how do we get more tanks to queue up for content? And I think one of the things that makes it hard is people are just nervous. They don't want to go in without knowing the routes. They don't want to go in and feeling unprepared. So the question is how does Blizzard create content that allows tanks and healers to safely learn content? And that's a whole different piece of the puzzle there. How do you allow them to safely learn content? Like today, for example, I was in an M plus run. It was a +2. It was actually with Ren. I was trying to help him learn how to run Miss Eterna Scythe. And so we get in there, and the hunter goes, "Hey, do you want me to use Lust?" And I think he was trying to decide if he needed to take his pet or not. And the guy who was the party lead, I think it was like the healer or something, just insta-kicked him. Just boom, booted him right from the group.
Jeez.
And he just goes, the whole reason I invited him was for Lust. And I was like, okay, yeah, well, why don't you just tell him yes?
Yeah.
Why don't you just say, yep, that, yeah. Like, why don't you just kick this dude? I think that's the problem, right? I think right now you have really a lot of toxicity in groups, and this was a +2. It was a +2. And by the way, his healing wasn't even good. When we ran the dungeon, he barely he couldn't even keep up. People were dying nonstop. So it is what
role did you play?
Oh, I was tank.
Oh, I thought you were running with Ren.
I made him grab a DPS so that that way I could be a little bit more prepared for that run.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it's just yeah, dude. There's an interestingness right now to dungeons that makes it hard. I think having a space, I don't know, maybe it's more in-game resources for tanks. Because even today I was doing a run, and one of my viewers was like, "Dude, you really need to sit down and use Mythic Dungeon tools to map out your run before you go in." And you know what? I didn't. I don't really do that because usually I'm so like fine on the timer. I don't care, right? Like if I don't time a dungeon, it's not because I didn't have percent or something. If I didn't time a dungeon, it's because we wiped twice or whatever, right? So. But I do think there needs to be something available. And I think maybe part of the problem is that M0 feels so pointless, right? So people aren't doing M0. But I think M0 would help out a lot of our tanks. And then also like early dungeons, 2s through 4s, I think are a great way to start learning routes. And I just don't think people feel comfortable right now learning routes. And I think part of it is, again, it's just really punishing. So I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer. I don't think the answer is to put tanks and healers in separate content from everybody else. Because then now you only have more DPS who don't feel like they have anybody to play with. And if I'm being honest, tanking and healing isn't fun without DPS. Right? Like you do need them. You do need them. Your damage just isn't there otherwise.
Yeah, it's I don't necessarily think that this is a terrible thing to do. I just don't think it's like I mean, adding like almost like an LFG queue that's like an auto queue for tanks and healers is basically, and I'm assuming this is like an auto queue just because it I mean, well, if it's
Yeah,
strictly for
yeah.
tanks and healers, it almost has to be on IQ,
Yeah,
right?
probably. Sorry, super distracted. I just saw them. They look really good. A lot of the rewards.
Dungeons idea yet. I think it has a little bit more. What's the word? Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
Needs a little more tuning to get it to where I think it would make sense to kind of run that. But yeah, I just think they need to have it. I don't think this is. I think to fix this, it's not going to be, hey, let's add something, or hey, let's introduce something. It's, hey, we need to change something.
Yeah.
And we need to change how tanking feels in game. We need to change how healing feels in game. It's not, oh, we just need to add this and that'll make them feel better. I mean, there
you're
would
right.
be
You
stuff
are right.
like if they added Death Strike healing back, that would make me feel better, right?
Yeah. Right.
But
yeah.
That's at the end of the day a change, right?
Yeah, right. I think they need to make it more appealing. Tanking and healing has to be more appealing to players, and it's just not. And whatever it takes to make it appealing, Blizzard has to do. And I don't care whatever like personal beliefs that they hold at Blizzard about what the experience should be like. If players aren't doing it, then they're failing. That's ultimately it. If players, if you don't have one tank for every 3 DPS in the game, you design tanks wrong. That's it. That's the answer. That is the answer. You design tanks wrong if there's not one tank for every 3 DPS. Same for healers.
Yeah.
Right. Also, sorry for earlier. I accidentally opened up Wowhead and saw the Plunderstorm outfit coloration for this time around. And dude, it's kind of sick. The grays with the purple feathers and stuff.
It is.
Dude, it's pretty sick. It's pretty sick. Sorry, I got so distracted, but it was just really cool. Anyways,
it is pretty cool.
I think we got to wrap up the podcast here. And dude, Chicken, I just want to say, man, I always enjoy recording this with you every week. This is something buddy. I look forward to all the time. And everybody who's listening, guys, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to come hang out with us on Discord. There's a link in the description. Come ask us questions in the Questions for the Pod channel. We love answering your questions on the stream, or if you have ideas about something or what you would like to see in World of Warcraft, come bring it to us. We want to talk about it. We love the discussion material you guys bring. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitch, _Swaglock on Twitch, and Swaglock on YouTube if you're looking for more content to take part in.
Hey, and if you're listening, you got this far, you definitely want to tune in to next week. It's going to be our 20th episode, and we may or may not have a extremely knowledgeable guest on high-end content that may or may not have a connection to a very popular Twitch streamer.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's a possibility. Anything's possible, but you will find out next week with our episode. So, everybody, thanks for listening.